Hey everybody, it's Ohad Pearl here, Geriatric Care Manager for Covered Caregiver, and I just got off the phone with a client of mine who wants a caregiver to come in at 4:30 in the morning. What? Who in their right mind comes to work at 4:30 in the morning? And get this, she wants her to leave at 8 a.m. because another caregiver comes in. Now, that other caregiver stays till 3. What do we do after 3? Well, they want that caregiver who started at 4:30 to come back at 3, stay until 6. Now, who in their right mind wants a caregiver to work those kind of hours, or any human being, every day, 5 days a week? It's not going to happen. And so this video is about families and clients who are looking for caregivers and hire privately rather than going with an agency. So we want to go over some of the don'ts in this video about what to not do when you hire privately. And so, of course, number one, if you find a good caregiver outside of an agency, don't let them dictate their hours to you. So the reason they wanted our agency to find someone at 4:30 in the morning is because they found a caregiver that was highly recommended, who previously worked at an agency but now works independently. They get paid more and they have more flexibility. But that flexibility comes at stake on the client's end. So they're sacrificing here for the priority of the flexibility of the caregiver. So who's dictating what here? The client now becomes the employer, but the caregiver is dictating how things are going to go. And it shouldn't be like that. So in this particular case, the caregiver said, I want to work 8 to 3. Start at 8, end at 3, 5 days a week. Great. So they felt like they found someone who is good, has the credentials, and can cover 5 days a week. Now we just have to find someone when mom is still sleeping at 4:30 in the morning because I have to get to work at that time. And so they give us a call, and from 4:30 to 8, we have to find a caregiver who would then only come back at 3 to 6 until the daughter comes back home from work. And that would happen 5 days a week. It's not going to happen. There aren't caregivers who want to take on an assignment like that. And if there was a very slim chance that this was going to happen and we found someone, a human being can only work 2, maybe 3 weeks on a schedule like that before they say, this is no longer for me. So the first don't is, if you're hiring privately, don't let the caregivers dictate to you what hours they're going to do. Give them shifts. It'll be very easy then to manage a schedule. Number 2, don't let a caregiver handle your sensitive information. It's very important. We just had a client, or a potential client, who has a caregiver now for about 4 years, but prior to being a caregiver, she was our client's, this was our client, by the way, for a short period of time, but potentially we were going to go for longer hours. The short period of time came from a subsidy from the state that introduced us to this person, and they asked us if they can provide, if we can provide more hours for them. Essentially, the caregiver here used to be the housekeeper for this client, and as his condition got worse, he asked if she can do more caregiving chores for him. In that 3-year span, it turned in from housekeeping into more personal care items. But this gentleman has gone to know this caregiver over those 3 years and slowly gave her more access to his more sensitive information, such as his banking, such as his prescriptions, and so many other things, like the idea that they're selling his home so that he can downsize. And the point of contact was that caregiver. And so here we are. We find that this caregiver only does the afternoon shifts. It's not because she can't do the earlier shift. It's because she doesn't want to wake up early and come on in. And because of that, poor old Jim missed his physical therapy appointment just the other day at 8 a.m. But to make it up to him, his caregiver, who only comes in the afternoons, swung by the local medical marijuana dispensary to pick him up some THC lotion for his body aches, just to make him feel a little bit better because he didn't get a chance to go to the physical therapy. And of course, it wouldn't be surprising as a gratuity if that caregiver picked up a gram or 2 of some THC for herself. Just saying. We don't know for sure, but from the looks of it, and what we know, I wouldn't be surprised. Now, When we presented Jim the agreement so that he can review at his leisure, and he essentially and conveniently provided that for the caregiver to review as well, the caregiver quickly realized that our agency not only was less than her per hour, but they were able to fulfill the hours of the morning and the afternoon at a cost that would be less than what good old Jim was paying his current, what used to be housekeeper, and now caregiver. All of a sudden, our agency was getting very specific and important questions coming our way that unfortunately could not really be answered. I wonder why. And under Jim's current caregiver's guidance, they declined any services with us. And so what we're getting at here is by providing so much sensitive information and so much of your property to that caregiver conveniently has a job. And that job is then tailored according to that person's schedule. And if there is any threat that that job may not be around anymore, that caregiver will shut it down. And that's what happened in our case. So be careful with providing sensitive information. You're giving trust to a person who then conveniently can schedule their day around you. And not just their day, but their whole job. Their way they make their income can be scheduled around the trust that you've given them. So look out for that. Number 3, don't hire without a background check. And better yet, don't hire without a caregiver registering with the state that they live in, because there's more scrutiny than just background check. There's TB testing. There's background checking not only through FBI and the Department of Justice, but also driver license checking, although that doesn't come with the state. That is something that our agency does and should be across the board. We want to make sure that when clients are being driven around, that the caregiver has a clean driving record. COVID, all vaccines have been taken, and with at least a 2 weeks post before they provide services. And of course, we want to make sure that they're legally allowed to work in this country, and so many other factors that come with it by working with an agency. But if you're going to at least hire privately, make sure that they are background checked and registered with the state. Now, in summary, what we wanted to bring into the to light here in this video is that there are just a few of many, many different types of downfalls or pitfalls, if you will, that you can come across if you hire privately. We just got into 3. The first one, of course, don't let the caregiver dictate the hours to you. You're the employer. You're going to let them know what shifts are available. Now, don't provide sensitive information. That trust then gets, naturally as a human being, conveniently made out in the benefit and priority of the caregiver's lifestyle. So don't look out in giving out that kind of sensitive information. And, some of those bad apples can actually use that sensitive information, like the banking, for their own personal use, if you know what we mean. And lastly, make sure that they're background checked, because that is an important aspect to making sure that you're protected with your financial and personal property. We hope this information was helpful when you look for private caregiving hiring, just offering you some don'ts and what to look for. Of course, as an agency, we would always recommend going with that because we minimize those pitfalls. We register every one of the caregivers with the state, so they are background checked. They are trained annually, multiple hours, and of course, they're supervised daily. They're making sure that they show up on time and leave on time, and that they are note-taking while they're there. All this is being supervised by a care manager. Again, we hope that this video shed some more light into hiring privately and the don'ts to look out for. And if you are interested in more kind of this type of content and knowledge, please subscribe. We look forward to continuing to provide more of this for you. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.